Trump's election is going to be the biggest fuck you ever recorded in human history.
It's not a proud day for this country. How could it be a proud day when a man who was not elected by the people becomes president of the United States? How does that happen? Listen, the man is a malignant narcissist, all right? That's a dangerous combination to have a narcissist like that who's elected to public office, because he's only thinking about himself. He's only thinking, how does this affect me?
This isn't just another political scandal, it's the collapse of the myth America's been sold for decades. Donald Trump didn't accidentally rise to power. He engineered a takeover built on gold-plated lies and primetime theatrics. He wasn't elected to serve the people, he was elected to serve himself. Now, the cracks in that empire are too big to cover. For years, he sold a fantasy of strength, success, and salvation, but behind the curtain, it's been chaos, betrayal, and self-preservation at any cost. The truth isn't dripping out, it's pouring. And this time, the dam could burst wide open. The real question isn't if Trump's image will shatter, but how much damage it will cause when it finally does.
Fake news that he's one of the founders of in the Obama era.
So
he created the fake news of the
Barack Obama is not a citizen,
and he said that there was intelligence.
That's right. He was called by a reputable
source that there was intelligence.
Right.
He himself was going to. He was hiring investigators.
Yes.
To support his fake news.
In fact,
he is the godfather
That's
of this decade's fake news.
This is
for him now to say fake news.
Trump's empire was built like a reality show, loud, flashy, and scripted down to the last detail. But a reality show only works if the audience keeps believing in its star. Now, that star is stumbling, the mask is slipping, and America is seeing the unedited footage for the first time. From shady backroom deals to policies crafted to benefit his inner circle, Trump's presidency wasn't leadership, it was a con. And the con artist is running out of tricks. The image that carried him to power, the tough-talking outsider, the master negotiator, is collapsing under the weight of his own record. When the cameras finally stop rolling, all that will remain is the wreckage of trust he left behind.
Because when he starts to cause harm to our fellow Americans, people are going to rise up. They're not going to take this. They're not going to take it from a guy that did not get a majority of the votes of the people of this country. So, you know, and his thin skin too could be his undoing. You know, when whoever has the most points wins, right? Tottenham 2, Chelsea 1. Who won that game? I'm just asking you factually. Who won that game?
In that case, Tottenham.
Tottenham won. All right. Now, how odd would it be if you on the news that night said Chelsea won today with one goal and Tottenham got 2?
But what are you going to do about it?
This makes no sense.
Michael Moore once warned that Trump's power didn't come from his policies, it came from his performance. He knew how to work a crowd, make them laugh, cheer, and chant his name. But that charm is wearing thin, and what's underneath is far more troubling. This is a man who turned fake news into a political weapon, lied about his opponents without blinking, and stoked fears about immigrants, jobs, and safety just to score points. Moore saw through it years ago, and now more Americans are starting to see it too. Because when the slogans fade, the truth is clear: Trump never had a plan. He only had a script.
Donald Trump is a big believer in capitalism and free enterprise and the sort of thing that's driven us into the ground, this belief that you could just do whatever you want and it doesn't matter who gets hurt by it. And I don't really see him changing, but I think he knows he's been on TV. You know, I mean, he's a performance artist. He knows what to say and he knows how to make this appeal.
You think it's BS?
I think it's, well, please, I don't use that kind of language. But yes, I think. Megan, come on, I know this is the flagship show of Fox News. I just want to go on the record. Well, we all know that.
Like the way you make me sound. Go on.
It is.
What's worse than a corrupt politician? A corrupt politician who makes you laugh while he robs you blind. Trump isn't just a president, he's a performer, treating governing like a primetime act. He staged rallies like WWE matches, turned press briefings into comedy routines, and twisted national crises into personal branding moments. But every show ends and the crowd is starting to boo. Moore understood this ridicule is Trump's kryptonite. He can battle critics, silence reporters, and intimidate rivals, but he can't control the laughter. Once people stop fearing the strong man and start laughing at the fraud, the curtain begins to close.
These days, Donald Trump is very busy doing a whole bunch of other things that we're not paying attention to. Today, Donald Trump's EPA did something that will suffer from years from now that we don't even know right now. His Interior Department sold off land of ours to people that shouldn't have it. His Agricultural Department, I mean, just go down all the cabinet departments. Every day there is something going on, and we are very caught up in the large things that he's doing, threatening North Korea, refusing to acknowledge what happened this weekend, what really happened. And I just want to be the one to point out that take this horror moment that we're in and times it by 20, times it by 200. That's what's going on in every federal agency under his control every single day. I'm sorry to be the one to have to point that out.
The myth of Trump as an untouchable billionaire outsider is crumbling under the weight of his own failures. Multiple bankruptcies, constant investigations, and a presidency marked by high-profile resignations aren't signs of strength, they're proof he was in over his head. Moore didn't need to invent scandals. They were right there in the open. Broken promises on healthcare, jobs, and infrastructure weren't accidents, they were part of the performance. And that performance was always about him, never the people who believed in him. Now, as the lies stack up and the walls close in, America faces a choice. Keep applauding the act or walk out before the next scene turns dangerous.
They see that the elites who ruined their lives hate Trump. Corporate America hates Trump. Wall Street hates Trump. The career politicians hate Trump. The media hates Trump after they loved him and created him, and now hate him. Thank you, media. The enemy of my enemy.
Yes, right. But you and I know, because we've known Trump for how many umpteen years. I've been on shows with Trump back in the 90s. I mean, this is a guy who did support Planned Parenthood, who was for gay rights, who you know, yes, he was a big blowhard. He wanted his name on everything, but he also put the ice skating rink back in Central Park.
Right.
So you know, he's not what he's made himself out to be to these people who voted for him.
So then couldn't a guy like you get behind him?
No, his problem is going to be when he tries to walk back all the crazy stuff that he said. What's going to happen to all the people who voted for that crazy stuff?
You think they're going to abandon Trump?
I think Trump, I should say, I hope that we see the biggest landslide loss ever when whoever the Democratic nominee is beats Donald Trump.
You know what they're banking on? That even though he might lose some women, he might lose some Hispanics, he might lose some young people, some African-American vote, he's going to make it up with the white working class, with the very region he's now touring through, Appalachia and elsewhere, because he's appealing to them and because Hillary Clinton has made some mistakes already.
Trump's rise wasn't an accident, it was built on a dangerous mix of celebrity culture, media obsession, and political exhaustion. He perfected the art of selling outrage instead of solutions, slogans instead of substance, but that magic act is losing its pull. Moore saw it from the start. Trump was never a builder, only a manipulator. He didn't fix the system, he exploited it, feeding on people's desperation and distrust. His empire wasn't built on policies that helped working Americans, it was built on the illusion that he cared. Now the cracks are showing, and each new scandal weakens the foundation. The applause is fading, and the man who lived for attention is learning that silence may be his loudest enemy.
None of what he said was true, but that didn't matter. He knew how to communicate to the American public. He knew how to tell them what they wanted to hear. He went all over Wisconsin the last week saying, I'm gonna make you all rich. I'm gonna make you all rich. You're gonna make you all rich. Well, geez, who wouldn't like to hear that, right? Right, ma'am, how do I look tonight? How do I look? What would you say? Amazing, thank you. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it really made me feel good. And that's how he worked, right? He knew how to do it because
he was a TV star. He was already a beloved American TV star. Do you realize in the first year, I'm talking about The Apprentice, by the way, the looks on your face, you know. He was the host of a show called The Apprentice. How many people in here watch The Apprentice every week when Donald Trump was on? Can I see a show of 1, 2, 3, 4 in the balcony? Oh my God. You realize that his first year on the air, on some of those shows, that first season, he had over 40 million viewers. Last week on TV, the largest rated show was America's Got Talent. Not ironically titled, by the way, it's a real show. It had 13.1 million viewers. He had 40 million people watching this. And I realized, I guess this isn't that crowd. But I want to tell you, in between the Hudson River and La Cienega Boulevard, there are a lot of people that loved him because he knew how to keep it simple, stupid, right?
Trump has always feared being mocked more than being opposed. Opposition can be attacked, silenced, or discredited, but laughter spreads too quickly to contain. Michael Moore weaponized humor against him, showing that the tough guy persona crumbles under ridicule. Late-night jokes, sharp satire, and viral sketches cut deeper than any political attack. For a man obsessed with his image, mockery is lethal lit strips away the myth of invincibility and exposes the insecure man beneath. And now, the harder Trump tries to project dominance, the easier the punchlines write themselves. This isn't just comedy, it's cultural rebellion, hitting him where he's weakest, his desperate need to be admired. Trump didn't just blur the line between politics and entertainment, he erased it. Campaign rallies became reality show episodes, policy announcements turned into cliffhangers, and even national emergencies were staged as dramatic plot twists. But Moore warned that once governance becomes performance, democracy becomes a prop, facts turn negotiable, loyalty becomes transactional, and national institutions are reduced to stage backdrops. Every crisis was a chance to grab headlines and keep the spotlight on himself, but the act is wearing thin. The audience is exhausted, the plot predictable, and the stakes dangerously real. This isn't harmless. Entertainment tits a script where the finale could be the end of democracy itself unless the viewers finally tune out. Trump ruled through fear of immigrants, protesters, and the supposed loss of American greatness. Keeping the country in constant conflict was his distraction tactic. As Moore pointed out, when people are fighting, they aren't asking real questions about policy or accountability, but fear only works for so long. Eventually, people tire of being afraid. They see the promises never delivered, the enemy changing every news cycle, and the chaos serving only one man. Trump thrived on division, but unity even among those weary of his games could be his undoing. The same fear he exploited could ultimately turn against him. His so-called populism was just a rebrand of the swamp he promised to drain. Tax cuts favored the rich. Environmental rollbacks helped corporations, and working Americans were left behind. Moore didn't have to fabricate outrage, he simply pointed to the facts. The billionaire in the hard hat wasn't building for the people, he was building for himself. The outsider who vowed to fight corruption surrounded himself with career politicians and lobbyists. This wasn't accidental betrayal, it was betrayal by design. Now, more people are awake to the scam and the brand is collapsing. The man who claimed only I can fix it is learning that this time, no one's buying the pitch. Trump didn't just flirt with authoritarianism, he studied it, embraced it, and wore it proudly. He praised dictators, undermined NATO, and treated US alliances like disposable toys. Behind closed doors, he demanded loyalty oaths not to the Constitution, but to himself. When the pandemic hit, he didn't see a crisis. To manage, he saw a chance to rewrite the story in his favor. Lives were lost while he pushed miracle cures and held rallies. His America First slogan masked an America Alone reality. Every lie was another brick in the wall he built between truth and the public. The illusion of strength was his sharpest weapon. He convinced millions that bluster was power, cruelty was leadership, and corruption was patriotism. He called the press the enemy of the people while feeding his base a steady stream of misinformation. Fact-checkers became villains, scientists became traitors, and political opponents became targets. Institutions meant to protect democracy bent under his weight. Terrified of the tweets and tantrums that could destroy careers overnight, he didn't drain the swamp he welcomed. It fed it and handed it the keys to the vault. This wasn't incompetence, it was strategy. Every headline, every scandal was another distraction, buying him more time to tighten his grip.
Do you believe there is a chance that Trump could be convicted by the Senate? We will take care of it.
Weirdly enough, I am that kind of optimist that believes that of the 53 Republicans, Trump can keep the majority, 33 of them in support of him. I believe that there are 20 Republicans who could possibly vote to remove him. That could happen. There's a sliver of a chance if the John Bolton testimony shows people what else is there besides the Ukrainian phone call.
And we don't know if he'll be allowed to testify.
Trump understood that fear was the most powerful political currency, and he spent it without restraint. He cast immigrants as invaders, protesters as anarchists, and anyone who questioned him as an American. This wasn't politics, it was a cult of personality. His rallies weren't campaign stops, they were loyalty tests, complete with enemies to jeer and a leader to idolize. He stoked division until neighbors looked at each other with suspicion and family dinners became battlegrounds. And when the nation needed healing, he poured gasoline on the fire. The more fractured America became, the easier it was for him to claim he was the only one who could fix it. But fixing it was never the goal, breaking it was.
Donald Trump came to the Detroit Economic Club and stood there in front of the Ford Motor executives and said, if you close these factories as you're planning to do in Detroit and build them in Mexico, I'm going to put a 35% tariff on those cars when you send them back, and nobody's going to buy them. It was an amazing thing to see. No politician, Republican or Democrat, had ever said anything like that to these executives. And it was music to the ears of people in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, the Brexit states.
It all came to a head on January 6th, the day that will live in infamy. This wasn't a protest that spiraled out of control. It was the inevitable result of years of lies and incitement. Trump lit the fuse, then stood back to watch the explosion. The Capitol, the heart of American democracy, was overrun by his supporters, convinced they were patriots on a holy mission. Lawmakers fled for their lives as the world watched in shock, and still, Trump delayed, calling them off. The message was clear: democracy was negotiable, but his power was not. That day, the mask slipped completely. The world saw him for what he truly was. Now, with investigations closing and the walls tightening, Trump is playing his last card, convincing his followers that any attack on him is an attack on them. He's painting prosecutors as political assassins, courts as corrupt, and calling them off. The message was clear: democracy was negotiable, but his power was not. Democracy itself as the enemy. But here's the truth he fears most this time: the consequences are real. This time, the lies are unraveling faster than he can spin them. And if justice holds and America wakes up, it won't just end a political career, it will shatter the illusion he's built, brick by brick, lie by lie. For Trump, that would be the ultimate downfall.